Good morning.
Happy
Hello,
Monday.
hello. Who
We
all
are,
uh, who all got snow last week?
yeah, I have the travel story from hell. The reason why I was not on the podcast last week because I got stranded in St. Pete for 3 days. And I mean, it also got cold there, but not like snowy cold. 6 different return flights on 4 different airlines. And then I had to fly to JFK and drive back to Boston. It was so crazy. So, to anyone working in the airline industry, I hope you are all doing some like meditation or like getting a massage or something because people were fired up at the airport. That is for sure.
Those poor souls.
I know. And you're just like, they're like, how do you not know what's going on? It's like, do you think that this desk agent is controlling what's happening? Like, also, the snowstorm just like sat on the East Coast. Like, it's not their fault. They can't do anything about this.
It was another weekend of where we thought we were going to get snow. The kids were all prepared for snow. And then we got in Metro Atlanta, we got just a dusting. Kids were so disappointed. And just like 30 minutes north, it was like 3 to 6 inches. So we just missed it.
We got like, when I say literally 5 flurries, I mean like 5
Just like
flurries. And my son was still excited. So
adorable. It's now we have this whole layer where like it snowed and then for like a little bit it sleeted and then it froze. So the snow isn't like fluffy snow, it is like solid chunks of ice everywhere. So
beautiful.
and then when we were in Florida, I was like, I voluntarily left Florida for this weather. And I just had to keep reminding myself that that is something I positively chose to do. But we're missing Mr. Slickers today. He is on much deserved vacation. So hopefully he is having a great time on his cruise. But we have a bunch of really fun topics today. So we can just jump in. Our first story has to do with Turkey, one of my favorite countries to visit. But they are suing a bunch of our big friends that we mentioned on the show. So suing booking sites, including Airbnb and Expedia. Also Get Your Guide, Viator, hotels.com, just like a whole sweep of big travel companies saying that these companies do not pay taxes in Turkey. Or they don't have set up entities, but they are profiting off of the Turkish tourism economy. And in Turkey, all these companies, if you're Turkish, you have to have a license. So they're saying it's an unfair advantage that all these international companies have.
Yeah, the primary basis of the lawsuit is that the OTAs do not have travel agency or agent licenses, and therefore it's unfair competition. This could be a very, very interesting precedent that gets set, and it's not just the big 3; it's 10 different sites that they were cited, and I can't imagine the long tail beyond that. But what an interesting angle for the traditional travel agent lobby, if there is one, to take and to go after. So this is a legitimate thing for the industry to keep an eye on, because it's always the first lawsuit sets the precedent, and others can cite it and point to winning and losing articles from the lawsuits. So while I'm sure travel in Turkey is a really big business, if this spreads throughout Europe and then across the Atlantic, it could really have some serious impacts. I don't think it will, but we'll see. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I mean, what a great example of potential regulatory capture of like a entrenched industry trying to create regulation to limit more competition. And clearly, these big OTAs are great for consumers in terms of price transparency, allowing people to see what are all the potential options for rates that are out there. Like, no, you actually need to go through your local tourist agent, tourism agent, to be able to find what price for each hotel and each airline, and seems a little ridiculous.
Well, okay, slight devil's advocate. How difficult would it be for any of these big companies just like get a travel agent's license in Turkey, right? Like these are billion-dollar companies, just do it. I don't know. I mean, I know that the tax implications are largely part of this, but if like, if it's really so simple as having
One, I think
paying
it's a
into it.
services offered component, not just like a transaction of a good.
Hmm.
But what's really interesting to me is, what if somebody books direct? Like, is a direct booking site a violation if that hotel or that short-term rental doesn't have a travel agent license
Oh, even if they are Turk, like if you were just like a Turkish person that was putting your home on Airbnb, or I guess not your own Airbnb, on your own direct site.
on your own website? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it loses merit when you take it one step further to what happens if they go direct. You're not required to use a travel agent, and therefore, what happens when the guest finds a hotel they just want to book themselves?
I also feel like it's interesting that there was previously a domestic ban on Booking.com. I didn't remember hearing about that, and that to me, I actually think is one of the more worrisome things for the rest, because if Booking.com, with all of its financial and legal might, cannot like win that court case or come to some sort of settlement or agreement, I don't know how it looks for the smaller guys.
Yeah, I mean, legal challenges for Booking.com throughout Europe are not new.
Yeah.
You you listen to Glenn talk, and they've got and mergers blocked, and they've had quite the challenge throughout Europe and continuing to expand their presence.
Well, something we'll definitely have to keep an eye on. And speaking of OTAs, we have Expedia cutting down on quite a few people. So, I mean, when I saw this article, I kind of thought that this is just par for the course on big tech companies cutting roles. But I think Michael had a more existential view on what this means for the future
Well,
of work.
yeah, well, I think it's also important to call out that Expedia is a massive company. They cut 162 jobs. It's
Yeah.
not a sweeping layoff of thousands of people, but it seems pretty targeted. But I think this further signals the adoption of AI and what it can mean for both big companies and early stage startups. So the big companies, the incumbents, they have a customer base. They get to optimize using AI, but it's hard to incorporate because there's so much technical debt. And we've seen Expedia over the past 3 years really, really focus on trying to eliminate technical debt. And it's started to show in their financials. The flip side is, a startup, you can just go on to Lovable, create a very point specific app to solve one of your business pain points or to solve a pain point for the market, and start to sell it with very little friction. You don't need a CTO anymore. You don't need months and months of dev time. You can do it with $25 and a little bit of free time. So the benefits of AI, I think it's toughest in that middle market where you have technical debt, but you don't have you might not be profitable. You might not have a massive base of customers to like tweak and optimize and learn from. But the data that the big companies have can feed AI, which makes it that much more valuable. So I'm not too shocked at 162 jobs. It's unfortunate for them. I think we've seen much larger layoffs at larger companies. So this one isn't quite as shocking as some others we've seen.
Yeah, it's also I feel like we've become like desensitized to layoff numbers, because when I read like 16,000 at Amazon, I was like, "Oh yeah, but that's 16,000 people. That's a
It's a
lot of
lot,
people,
a
you
lot.
know?" And it's interesting. Anecdotally, this is like from my friends that are in bigger companies that are trying to use AI, or trying to force their teams to use AI. And I feel like you see this kind of around, like people are still having to go behind it and tweak things. And maybe that's because there are security limitations, or you can't like fully dive in for legal reasons. But I don't know. I'm really, some days I'm doom and gloom that all of us are not going to have jobs. And then sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I feel like there's just going to be different jobs. We're just going to have to adjust.
Yeah, and it clearly, falls in line with what we hear across the tech ecosystem. And you look at, and all the articles sort of quoted Expedia's sort of total employee base, which from 2023 to 2024, we don't have the numbers yet for 2025, but I expect they're similar. But their overall employee base has actually been coming down slightly. All the while, their company has been growing revenue, has been growing profit. And this seems to be the theme that's going to be, I think, the real impact of AI, of companies being able to grow, expand, generate, go into new verticals, expand revenue, and do it with their current employee base. And they may need to shift people around. And that's what this clearly looks like, of eliminating some positions, adding new positions elsewhere, but ultimately, and being able to do more with the same amount of people or slightly less. So, one of my favorite pastimes is listening to all the earnings calls.
And we thank you for that.
Yeah. Across all the different companies. And you don't hear any of the CEOs outright saying that AI is eliminating jobs, but they are trying to speak to the investors that AI is bringing efficiencies into their business. They're able to do more. They don't want to be seen as that one company saying, hey, we don't need people anymore. And they all need their employees. They all need them to stay motivated and do more with less. But ultimately, and I think this is one of many announcements that we're going to see in the future of restructuring around and how AI is impacting labor.
This is kind of not, travel related at all, but there's this growing worry that with all these, entry level jobs that are getting replaced, like how are you training the next generation of people to know how to do the job? And so I think that's a huge worry. Like, you still need the college graduates, you still need people who are young and hungry. And, so I think that it's something I don't think in our, on the PM side that we're going to have to worry, because our job is so physical still. But on these travel companies, like when all these people age out, who's coming in behind them with the skills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of the skills they're learning are the things that they have to take on to their own plate and teach themselves various AI skills, become experts in some areas. I don't know if you guys saw any of the news of the Clawbots creating their own social media over the weekend. How long until a Clawbot creates? Yeah. How long until a Clawbot creates an OTA, right? And now they're traveling on their own fictitious lands. But AI we're very much in the early innings. Like what we imagine now is probably a far cry from where it'll end up, similar to how the internet was perceived and then how it created all the SaaS companies that we know today. I would be scared if I was in a SaaS business, because a lot of that can be coded out. But it's really about, we're in the attention economy right now, and the one thing that the young generation is good at is their social media skills and knowing that it's an attention economy.
Yeah. And watching some of the, and we have comment from Mark Simpson on the Clawbot with the lobster emoji. But something you see with all these agents now starting to go out and like do work, like, if to your point, Michael, on the impact of SaaS, like if you need a CRM for a activity, like they're just going to build a quick CRM real quick to satisfy the need for that. So it's been incredible to see how these companies are evolving. And we talked about it maybe in the prediction episodes, that this is the year of agents, this is the year of AI, and companies sort of popping up. And with this new trend that we just saw this weekend, it's almost like you don't even know what it's going to build. It sees the need and then it just takes care of it for you. It's kind of scary.
It launched a meme coin that went, if you had invested $100 in it, you would have made $1 million in 24 hours, and then it crashed back to zero. But
I mean, this is just
absolutely
like
insane.
absolutely crazy Ponzi schemes. Like that is so wild. But I saw one of them was like a dating app for the bots. I'm like, are these bots having better dating lives than real people? This is crazy. That's very dystopian.
What a world to be in. And speaking of world, we talked a little bit at pre-show that about 10% of the world's economy is attributable to tourism. Jamie, you caught an article that without getting too far into politics, I think is like spot on. We as a country need to acknowledge how big of a factor tourism and travel plays on our economy. And there's not a whole lot of representation right now.
Yeah. So this article was on CoStar, and it was coming out of the Alice conference that was in LA last week. And up on stage, you had the CEOs of all the big major travel companies, hotel companies, IHG, Marriott, Hilton, Noble. And what they were calling for was that we needed a cabinet level position in the US government and representing the travel industry. We're one of the only advanced nations that doesn't have it. And when you look at, and what they really called out was the lost opportunity that we're seeing right now. You go back over the past 2 decades, travel was a net export for the US. That means foreign travelers spent way more in the US than American travelers spent overseas. And that is incredible for the US economy because we are bringing way more money in, and it supports jobs. It supports a big part of our overall industry, hotels, short-term rentals, restaurants. And over the past few years, especially this past year with all the negative sentiment sort of coming out of the federal government towards other countries, we have seen inbound travel really collapse at the exact same time when we should be seeing a travel surge. The dollar has weakened. I've done a ton of research on this, on the impact of dollar on foreign travel. Essentially, the U.S. is now on sale for foreign travelers, and we are not seeing any increase from that. So it is a big and sort of black eye on our economy right now that we're not seeing this. We're actually losing foreign travelers coming in. And this is directly impacting the bottom line of just about every travel company in the country.
Yeah, I think one of the craziest sentences in this article that really, I knew that there was, there was some negative numbers and everything, but the difference, a decade ago, we had a travel surplus of $50 billion. And in 2025, it will be a $70 billion deficit. That is an enormous spread. And it's, we're not rolling out the welcome mat. There's these headlines about people canceling FIFA tickets. Like this World Cup is supposed to be a huge boon for everyone, especially in those cities, and promoting country travel. So it's definitely, I think it's a piece of the economy that we've taken for granted on a political level. They're just assuming that we'll always be there, and that's why there's no kind of person in charge on the federal level of overseeing travel.
Yeah, I would love to see a cabinet level representation for tourism. It is a big business. It is important for our economy. And to Jamie's point, it's not unprecedented for there to be cabinet level members representing travel in other first world nations. I think the entire industry also feels this impact, right? Brandy, you talked about the switch from positive to negative. You see it in every aspect of travel, even if your property is not heavily international based. Pretty much everybody I know that has hotels or short-term rentals is down year over year. really over the past 2 years. And Jamie can spot check me with data there, but there's probably a couple markets that are shining stars, but those might have outlying reasons like Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. I wonder, add it to the laundry list of things that need to happen, but hopefully getting some representation. I think if there was like any other part of the economy that was like that enormous, it wouldn't go so unnoticed. And maybe because it's so fragmented, like travel isn't just like the airline industry or isn't just hotels or restaurants. It's like an amalgamation of all of these different sectors that it hasn't garnered like the right support yet.
Yeah, and I'll say I bet we see some positive headlines this year because of the World Cup and the 250th anniversary of the country. But these are all one-time things. Like once 2026 is over and we start looking at 2027, and we're going to see this impact really compound, and it could be a rough year in 2027 if we don't see an about face on some of these issues.
Yeah, that was, I think, probably one of my predictions was that at the end of the year, if we take out the World Cup, like what do things really look like? But speaking of big events and some positive news that usually impacts towns, next week we have the Super Bowl. And for a second, I just forgot who was actually in it because I don't really care about either team. Although don't tell anyone, Boston, I said that because I am a pretend Patriots fan for right now.
Yeah. So we've been digging into some of the data and wanted to ask a trivia question for you guys. Which market do you think the Super Bowl had a bigger positive impact in for short-term rentals? Was it on the last two? Was it Las Vegas or New Orleans?
Oh, it was New Orleans.
Definitely New Orleans.
Yeah. So in New Orleans, we saw over 97% occupancy over on Super Bowl weekend. We saw ADRs over 50% up, and we saw increase in listings of only up 1%, which is crazy. Though and Brandy, I'm sure you can explain what was happening in New Orleans at a time. It was a weird period around the regulation that was about to go in.
There's a lot of kind of lack of clarity and everything that going on with the city with regulations, and they were like actively finding people and things like that. So there wasn't this like rush of supply like you saw in Phoenix or anything like that. And it was, everything, people were paying crazy amounts of money to stay like literally anywhere. It was really wild, especially if you were close to the Superdome. That was delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, and Las Vegas was and supply increased 30%. Most of the demand actually went to hotels. And you go to Vegas and go to the Super Bowl, do you really want to stay in a short-term rental versus a hotel? So do you guys think the Super Bowl in Santa Clara, is it more like New Orleans or more like Vegas?
I'm gonna say Nola.
I'm gonna say it's right in the middle.
It's in the middle, but more towards New Orleans. So I'm going to give you guys both credit.
All right.
Oh, we each get a point. Everybody gets a point.
Bye, Brandy.
Yeah.
We're such millennials.
Yeah.
Like the Santa Clara market demand is up 70% going in. Like it is massive. We're even seeing 40% increases in demand in downtown San Francisco and Oakland. Prices are almost up 60%. So it is a pretty big impact there. We're not seeing a lot of increase in supply. So far it's looking to actually be a pretty big impact for operators, for hosts in that market, though it is relatively small. There's not a ton of short-term rentals in that area, and regulation's pretty tough.
That's what I was thinking, because it's kind of ironic that Airbnb's home city, it has like some of the strictest short-term regulations.
Though it is more like Paris in that it's more limiting on the number of days and that you can operate it. Like it's not totally banned, but there's definitely limits on how often you can do it. So it's good for events like the Super Bowl, but not necessarily good for full-time hosting.
Yeah, I wonder if there's, I feel like even if you're in an area where there's some sort of, crackdown on regulations when there's an event like this, things kind of like, I don't think they're going after those people. Maybe. Actually, I don't know. But I would think that they'd let some things slide. Maybe.
Yeah.
You never know in San Francisco. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
There's a few markets where you can never truly predict. But yeah,
Michael,
ultimately,
who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl?
oh no, I think my lag is back. I grew up with Mike McDonald, so I have to say the Seahawks. I'm going to say 27-14 Seahawks.
Wow. Okay. How about you, Jamie? What do you think?
I think the Seahawks are going to take it too. I watched a few, and to be honest, I haven't watched a single football game this year. But
I've watched more football than you have, and I care like this much.
I did check the betting markets, and it looks like Seahawks have a pretty big advantage. So I'll go with who's expected.
Yeah, I feel conflicted because growing up, I come from a Colts family, and I was told when I went to Northeastern, if I rooted for the Patriots, I would have to sit at my own table at all family gatherings. And so I was like, I don't really care, so I'm not gonna. But now that I'm back here, I'm like, I feel like I should have some allegiance to the local team. Like how I was like when the Dolphins were playing, I would cheer for the Dolphins, but I just want to watch a good game. So everybody just has fun. As Paul Manzi said, everyone gets a trophy on GMH. I just hope that everyone goes out there and really enjoys the game on Sunday. And I mean, it will be intolerable here if they lose. So more for my own sake.
Well, there's riots in the streets with a win or a loss in Boston. So
yeah,
car windows will be broken.
Awesome. Well, do you have any plans for the Super Bowl? Anything exciting?
We're going
to have some friends over. Nothing wild or crazy. Probably shoo them out by halftime so the kids can go to bed. But gotta at least see the first half with some folks.
How about you, Jamie?
Yeah, we're gonna go hang out with some friends and family. Probably leave at halftime so the kids can get to bed.
Doesn't the game start earlier now? Isn't it at like 6-ish? No. Okay.
And even if it's 6:30, like kids' bedtime is at 8, so that's halftime, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, what do you think bedtime is, Brandy?
Sorry. I guess. Yeah. I remember like begging my parents to let me stay up and watch the whole Super Bowl, and that like rarely ever happened. But so great episode today, guys. I think we packed a lot of stuff to kind of keep an eye out, things that will hopefully keep giving us topics as the year progresses. And just want to shout out our lovely loyal listeners, Paul, Mark, Terry, and Will joining us from his cruise, keeping an eye on us even when he is away on vacation. And we have a star guest today has been Jamie's dog in the background. What's your dog's name, Jamie?
It's Sunny.
Sunny. Well, Sunny's the star of the show, just keeping things exciting in the background.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch all of you next Monday.